Doobie-da-ba-ba-ba. 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 Sperm Sisters.
Welcome to this special bonus episode of our Donor Conceived podcast. Today's episode takes inspiration from a real-life recent court case involving a prolific sperm donor who connected with recipients through Facebook and who later sought legal recognition as the biological father on a child's birth certificate. The case raises complex and deeply personal questions about identity, intention, and the evolving meaning of parenthood in the age of informal donation. If you'd like to read more about the original news story, you can find it via the link in our description. What you're about to hear is a fictionalised retelling of that situation. While grounded in real events, this story has been reimagined to explore the emotional and legal nuances from a unique perspective, that of the judge who presided over the case. Through this lens, we'll step inside the courtroom and into the mind of someone tasked with weighing biology, law, and the best interests of a child, all while navigating a rapidly changing reproductive landscape. As always, we approach this topic with care and respect for everyone impacted by donor conception. Let's begin.
There is a particular stillness to a courtroom before proceedings begin, a kind of suspended breath, as though the room itself understands that what is about to unfold will alter something, not always visibly, not always immediately, but irrevocably nonetheless. The air hangs heavy with polish and paper. Oak panelling absorbs sound rather than reflecting it, lending every moment, every whisper, a certain gravity. Even the light, filtered through high, narrow windows, seems to hesitate before settling upon the bench. It was in this stillness that the quite frankly bizarre case in question arrived before me. There was no grand spectacle nor raised voices, no theatrical displays of grievance from the plaintiff. Instead, the point of the case was on paper simple, more so a request. Stood in front of me at the bench was a man declaring to be the legal father of a child, and that his name be entered upon a birth certificate. A case like this you might have come across before, possibly seen on the television in some midday budget courtroom drama series. Quite possibly this would be a simple fix once both sides were heard and the issue dismissed the same day. But simplicity in law is often a disguise. The man himself, the alleged father, was unremarkable at first glance, composed, attentive, carrying the peculiar confidence of someone accustomed to being heard. He spoke carefully, as though each word had been rehearsed and polished. He had probably practiced his speech in front of the mirror many times that week. This man described himself as a donor, a word that, in ordinary usage, suggests a distance, an act of giving and then relinquished. But as I listened to the gentleman, and as the details began to unfold, it became clear that this was no ordinary understanding of this term. By his own account, he had fathered an extraordinary number of children, not through established clinical processes under medical guidance, or within regulated frameworks, but through informal arrangements, many initiated through the digital corridors of social media, from Facebook groups to private messages. Exchanges conducted in the quiet anonymity of screens. Agreements made without oversight. Promises made without structure. Promises such as, if you go with me, you will have a baby. Interestingly, the donor in question did not present himself as careless. On the contrary, he spoke of intention, of principle, of a desire to ensure that no child would experience the absence he himself had known. It was, on its face, a compelling narrative. But courts do not decide cases on narratives alone. We examine patterns, and the pattern here was deeply unsettling. Because this was not a man who had simply assisted others and withdrawn to allow new families to form and bond with their newborn baby. This donor returned. Again and again and again he returned. For what reason? Seeking recognition? Involvement? Legal acknowledgement? In this case, it was all of the above and ultimately a place on the certificate. As he spoke, I observed him closely as the proceedings unfolded. There was a certain intensity, not overtly aggressive, but a persistence. A sense that beneath the measured tone, there existed something immovable, something that did not easily accept limits. It was uncomfortable. At the centre of this application, as in all such cases, was not the man, but the child. A child already situated within a family, a structure that, while perhaps some might see it as unconventional, was nonetheless established. A name had been chosen, a record created, a life quietly and steadily unfolding. To alter that record is not a straightforward administrative task. It's an intervention. Could this man not see that it reshapes a child's identity? It invites disruption. The birth certificate is often misunderstood. It is seen as a document of fact, a biological ledger of the existence of a human being. But it is more than that. It is a declaration of legal parentage, a foundation upon which rights, responsibilities, and relationships are built. To inscribe a name upon it is to confer significance, not merely symbolic but enduring. And here the question arose: what would it mean to place his name there? Because this case did not exist in isolation. It carried with it the weight of scale. This wasn't affecting just one child, but dozens, scores, perhaps even more. A network of lives connected by biology, yet dispersed across households. A spider's web of humans and families pulled together by a man who sought, repeatedly, to assert a form of presence in these children's lives. The modern world has made such arrangements possible. With a few keystrokes in this digital age, we can reach across cities and countries, offering something as fundamental as genetic material, as though it were a commodity to be exchanged. And perhaps, in some cases, it is done thoughtfully and with care, but here the scale transformed the act into something else. Something that strained the boundaries of what the law can comfortably recognise. There was, too, the matter of prior conduct, findings in earlier proceedings, descriptions of behaviour that suggested not empathy, but persistence, a determination to achieve a desired outcome regardless of prior agreements. A man who, having been told no, did not accept it as final. The law must consider not only what it is asked, but who is asking it, and why. I found myself returning again and again to the same central point. What is in the best interests of the child? What is the best lived reality of their future? Would the addition of this man's name bring clarity or confusion? Stability or uncertainty? Security or intrusion? Because once entered, such a name cannot simply be ignored. It carries weight, inviting involvement and creating expectation. It opens the door to further claims. And in this case, those possibilities could not be viewed in isolation from the broader pattern, the wider context of his activities. Is he hoping to be invited to Christmas concerts or school plays? Perhaps go as far as to take part in the dad's race on sports day? It sounds perplexing and possibly comical to us, but to a man who has fathered a great many children and now demanding recognition of this fact, these activities may seem plausible. There are, within our legal framework, carefully constructed systems governing assisted reproduction. They exist not to restrict, but to protect, to ensure clarity of intention, to safeguard the welfare of children, to prevent precisely the kind of uncertainty that this case embodies. To step outside those systems is not unlawful, but to seek the same legal consequences and without the same safeguards is another matter entirely. And so, having considered all that was before me, the facts, the history, the implications, I reached my conclusion that to grant the declaration sought would be contrary to public policy, that it would not serve the best interests of the child, and that in the circumstances of this case it was not appropriate. The application was dismissed. When the room had emptied and the stillness returned, I chose to sit for a moment, watching the specks of dust dance in the sunlight streaming in from the tall windows. But it certainly was not the same stillness as before. Something had shifted, not dramatically, but in the quiet way that the law moves, setting boundaries, drawing lines, attempting, however imperfectly, to keep pace with the world that does not wait. We live in an age where the most intimate aspects of human life can be arranged with unprecedented ease, where parenthood can begin with a message and unfold across distances once unimaginable. And yet the consequences remain as profound as they have ever been. A child still requires stability, clarity, a sense of belonging that is not contested, not fragmented, not subject to repeated claim. The law cannot oversee every decision made in private, but it can, when asked, refuse to legitimise those that risk undermining the very foundations upon which a child's life is built. The certificate remains, unaltered, as it should. Because it's not a record of ambition, nor a reward for persistence. It is hopeful stability.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's bonus episode. Make sure you catch up on previous episodes released fortnightly. If you enjoyed listening, we would really appreciate a 5-star review or follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Or even better, share it with a friend. You never know who it might help. We'll catch you again on Tuesday for our usual weekly episodes. Take care of yourselves. The Sperm Sisters.